All right, everyone. Welcome. Welcome back to Latin Light and Life. Hope everyone had a lovely Thanksgiving and you were able to spend time with friends and family. You know, this is one of the, unfortunately, only religious holidays that we have in America. You know, like everything else has become commercialized. Even they're trying to, commercialize, Thanksgiving by Black Friday. But it's the only thing, it's the only event or the only day probably in America in which families get together to say thanks. Who are we saying thank you to? It's we're saying thank you to God, and so may God preserve this holiday, and I hope that we can continue to participate and practice it in the right way. We are continuing our series called Made for Connection, and this morning I want to talk about a little bit of a sensitive topic. It's called Relational Intelligence. I'm going to try not to offend everyone in the room, okay? And it's really important. I'll tell you why. We've been talking about relationships, and we've been talking about people feeling lonely and people, welcoming others and inviting others into your circles. But I have to be honest, this is where people are saying, Father Paul, there are some people, like, I can't spend that much time with them. Relationally, they're not, they don't have social intelligence. They don't know how to navigate through relationships. They don't know how to, make any interaction or get together special, and so every time I go, I'm drained, or I feel like I'm being, and so what I want to say is, sometimes we're blaming a congregation or a group of people for not being welcoming. But now there's another side of the story that you kind of have to be aware of. Maybe there's a reason why your relationships are not going deeper. That you maybe are lacking in the social intelligence category, that you don't know how to read people or interact with others. Don't you wish that when you came to work and there's a big sign on your boss's neck that says, had a huge fight with my spouse, please leave me alone today, right? It would be nice that if he could communicate that in the beginning, but when he walks in, you should be able to look at his or her face and say, okay, something's not right about the boss today. Wish that people could get pulled over by like the relational police to say, hey, what you're doing is kind of awkward. I'll tell you, I'm not the most confrontational person. Okay, I'm sensitive. And so sometimes I'm sitting with people and there's things I'm dying to tell you. Because I love you, not because I want to hurt you, because I love you. And if you continue this way, something's not going to work out in your life. Okay? That you don't realize that you're coming off in a certain way, that something isn't right about you, something is not coming off, and I can't do it. So I said, you know what, I'll do it in a crowd full of people. Hopefully, everyone can identify with the part that relates to you. That way I don't have to offend you personally, but I can offend you guys all as a group. It's so important to be able to understand and to be able to read people's signs that they have. Reading people's signals. Relational intelligence is vital to navigating life's relational road signs. People are constantly giving you message in your interactions. They're giving you signs and signals, and they're communicating things as they're speaking to you. And sometimes some things are just not being communicated correctly. Proverbs 20:27 says this. It says, the spirit of the man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all the inner depths of his heart. The spirit of a man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all the inner depths of his heart. Often what it's saying is that the Lord is reading into your spirit. And by reading into your spirit, he's seeing what's inside of your heart. Now, God wants us to have a little bit of the same thing. We've been saying almost in every meeting that you are made in God's image. And so God also wants you to be able to know one another, to pay attention to what's going on in the people that are around you. There are things underneath the surface that you can only hide for so long, right? You can tell when somebody that you interact with regularly is different today. They're in a different mood. They have a different mood going on. They're smiling more. They're smiling less. If they're outgoing, they're more quiet. And it's important for us as the people of God to be able to listen to what's happening in someone else's heart. It's a spiritual perception that is also matched with social intelligence. And I'm saying this, and I want everyone, please, listen to everything I say, and just say, okay, this is me, okay? I know you're thinking about, like, woohoo, are you listening to Abuna? Hey, awkward person over there, are you listening to Abuna? I want you to say, okay, maybe there are aspects of this, because you have a lot of friends, and you have friends that are around you, but also there are many friends that will never tell you what you need to hear. And so that's what we want to talk about this morning. You see, people's feelings are not usually put into words. Most of the time, they're expressed in very subtle ways, whether it be through tone of voice, body language, facial expressions, gestures. A person sometimes can give like a nervous laugh. If their laugh is a little bit nervous, I was in California a month ago for a conference, and we were hanging out with some people, and some people thought they were closer than they are, and the person showed a picture of their ugly dog, and they're like, oh, look at little Fluffy, and the friends were like, that's Fluffy, they're like, that thing is nasty, and they were like laughing at the person, at the way that their dog looks, and the person kind of had this like chuckle, like they were like laughing because they were kind of all joking around. But deep down inside, I was like kind of sitting way off, and I'm like, this guy's about to cry right now. And they're laughing harder, no, he looks like a whatever, and he looks like an alien. And I'm like sitting in the back, I'm like, guys, this guy's going to break down and cry this second. And nobody was able to read the room. We're laughing, we're having fun, we're making fun. And I'm sitting in the back, and I'm like, nobody is reading this room here. Nobody is sensing what is going on. Often people, primarily through their bodies, are sending you thousands of signals all the time. They're telling you, keep talking. Or they're telling you, stop talking. I'm feeling stressed. I disagree with you. I'm enjoying this interaction. I'm bored. I want to leave this interaction. I'm very uncomfortable. Are you able to sense these things as you interact with another? I know you have a million names going on in your heads right now thinking, yeah, I'm going to spread this sermon to the whole world so that this person hears it so that they could know. Some people don't understand how they come off. I remember, so when I was, younger and, I was going and serving and giving talks at there was a servant that she would listen to, like she would, always in the ministry, so she was listening to my talks, and she would be listening to my talks like this. I'm thinking like, what did I say? Is it that bad? And she would come and say, Mikey, that was a great talk. I'm like, what? I'm like, do you understand how I was so stressed the whole talk, because the whole time she's like, what does that look? And she's like, really, I did that? I'm like, for 45 minutes, nonstop, that was your face. Some people don't know how they come off. Even God, even the Lord, in the story of Cain and Abel, was able to look after Cain had offered his sacrifice and Abel had offered his sacrifice. The Bible says that the Lord had preferred Abel's sacrifice over Cain's. Genesis 4:6 says this, so the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your countenance, your face, fallen? You see, God read his heart through his facial expression. And throughout all of the Bible, you'll see that often the Lord or prophets, they're in tune with somebody's expression. And I'm saying this because, like I said, chances are, if you're not able to connect deeply, you don't understand how you maybe offend people every time you interact with them. Maybe you don't understand the awkward environment you are creating, right? We're all sitting, we're hanging out, we're talking, some of us are sharing our hearts, we're opening up, and one person is sitting in the room not saying a word the whole night as we're all being vulnerable and real. What is everyone thinking about the person not saying a word in the room? Like, I don't feel comfortable. They're not being vulnerable. They're sitting there quiet, we're all kind of sharing and opening that now I feel like, okay, let me just be quiet now. Either this person didn't contribute, they didn't add value, they didn't participate, they weren't there. So maybe you enjoyed today's gathering. Chances are you're not going to get invited to the next one. You're like, it's so mean, Abuna. Yeah, because they can't sense the environment that they're creating in a gathering or in a connection. Often, you wear your hearts on your sleeves. You are wearing your hearts on your sleeves, and even when we ourselves are oblivious and unaware of them, it does govern the quality of how you interact with others. Look at a mother and what she's communicating to her child, right? That sometimes when a mother is caring, for their child, and they want their kid to smile, and so they give a big smile, and so the kid looks at their mom, and their face lights up. Or if a kid is starting to cry, and they want some attention from mom, or what happens is that, you kind of give this like very compassionate, sensitive, validating look to the person in front of you, and you're trying to teach this child that I sense you, that I understand your feelings. I'm not laughing when you're crying. And sometimes people, like I said, they're not reading this. You might say, what does this have to do with, you're a priest, Abuna, you should be telling us spiritual things. But this is affecting your spiritual life, your view of yourself, your view of community, your view of God, your understanding of love and how far to go, and how and boundaries, and opening boundaries and closing boundaries and setting up boundaries and bringing them down. And because of that, it's creating so much conflict. And sometimes I realize is that there's so little social awareness of how you come off that it's important for you to understand this. One dangerous aspect of the skill is that generally people who don't read others aren't aware that they don't. So people who don't read others, they don't realize that they're not reading others. Okay, nobody get offended. Sometimes, deacons, you get like one person who's off key. Okay, like if you're off key, I don't have a good voice, like I stand towards the back. I know I don't have a good voice, and so if I stand towards the back, I participate in the choir, it's good. Sometimes the guy is right in front of the microphone. And you kind of say, okay, let's take turns, right? Let's give the microphone to Mike, and then to John, and then to Mina, and then to Mark. And you hope that the person is kind of reading that hey, nobody is able to keep up. The other day I was telling one of the leaders, the deacons, I said, why don't we send a recording to all of the deacons? They could hear the last liturgy. I'm like, no, Boone, it's going to be so obvious. I'm like, but it's not obvious to the person that needs to hear it. Like, that person needs to hear that he's not matching the pitch. He doesn't have an awareness. And it's okay he doesn't have a good voice. It's not okay that he doesn't realize that he's bringing down, everybody in worship. Social awareness. That people don't want to interact with certain people. Say, well, that's not very loving. I get it. But I want you to look at yourself first. There are people who are not loving, and we cannot make people endure more than they can handle. You, on the other hand, can only be in control of your emotions and your relational skills and how you interact with others. You see, these folks aren't aware that they're not doing anything wrong. And this is why relational intelligence is so important. People don't want to be around them. And so if you are dealing with these struggles, if you feel like people don't want to be around you, don't take it hard. Take it as an opportunity to grow. Take this as an opportunity to say, you know what, you're right. Maybe I need somebody to come and tell me what I'm not perceiving. Hey, I realize that I don't get asked to go out. Maybe you have somebody that you're closer to. Can you just tell me, is there something that I'm doing wrong? You don't have to ask me out. You don't have to ask me to hang out and to join the group. You don't have to. But I want to understand, is there something that I'm doing wrong? And us, as a very delicate, gentle people, we will say, oh, there's nothing wrong. But sometimes there is. Sometimes there is something wrong that you are not seeing. And it is the Spirit of the Lord. The Spirit of the Lord that will help you to discern, what am I not seeing? The good thing about this is that relational intelligence can be learned. So if you feel like this is affecting you and you don't have it and you're struggling with it, then don't worry, you can learn it. You can learn these skills and you can begin to observe. And you can be able to say, okay, now I want to understand how other people perceive me or how I should perceive certain situations. So we're going to look at some of the relational road signs. The first one is stop. Some people run through nonverbal stop signs, right? People just run through them that, like, the person has, started to look away. They are like, they pulled up their phone and they're like kind of looking at you and they're looking at their phone, they're looking at you and they're looking at their phone. They're trying to say is maybe that this conversation isn't going anywhere. Like, you're missing all of the verbal stop signs. You say, oh, why were you late to work today? Or no, say, how was your day today at work? Oh, I was late to work because my coworker got like a flat tire, and then they talked to the mechanic, and the mechanic gave him too high of a price, and so they called the department, and I'm like, I don't know any of those facts. Like, are you okay? Are you alive? Are you going to survive? أنا مالي أنا والمechanic اللي في like why do you think it's important for me to know about the mechanic's wife who didn't talk to him that morning? And there's people that do it. And we're laughing. And has anybody ever spoken to a person like that? Nod if you've and the person has no clue that you don't want to know about the mechanic's day. Like, just you missed your shift. I don't know why you didn't come to work on time. Somebody who's leaning away. Somebody who's silent, like they're talking, and they're talking, and they're talking. And you're waiting for them to chime in, and they're just kind of waiting for the conversation to end. Are you that person that is not aware? Now, I know all you guys today are not going to talk very much with your friends. You're like, You don't want to sound like the crazy person. It's okay to be the crazy person. We all have challenges in our social intelligence. Everybody has shortfalls in them. But if you're constantly getting into conflict, you have to be aware. You have to be aware. So running through stop signs. Some people are saying, basically looking at you saying, stop talking. Stop advising. Stop rambling. Stop being so negative. Stop criticizing. Stop gossiping. Stop hogging all of the conversational spotlight. How many spouses will get to their spouse at the end of the night and they're like, you didn't shut up tonight. Like, just be quiet. Let other people talk. That's what marriage is good for. The only person that can really hurt your feelings is your spouse, okay? You were so annoying today. Be able to be aware of these things. All right. If you keep running nonverbal stop signs, you might have an audience for a moment, but you won't have a friend. People will talk to you. They'll come to you on church. Hey, how was your weekend? How's it going? You go on for 10 minutes. Also in conversation, if we're having a give and take conversation, I say a couple sentences, you say a couple sentences. I say a couple sentences, you say a couple sentences. Some people will take 35 sentences. Stop. Like, slow down. Like, like the stoplights, 2 minutes. These cars go, red light. These cars go, red light. These cars, some people, there's no red lights, khalis. They're in Egypt, right? There's no red lights. Just keep going. Make your way through to survive. The Bible says, when words are not absent, when words are in the multitude of words, sin does not cease. Let's see what St. Augustine says. Know when to speak. The wise man will know when it's fitting to speak and when it is fitting to keep silence. He considers the edification of the hearer, not his own inclination to speak. Once again, he considers the edification or the building of the listener, that this person is going to be enriched by what I'm saying. That I am going to be able to add value to them, that I am inspiring or I'm encouraging or I'm I'm directing, I'm bringing some substance into a conversation. If you're talking about nothingness, be careful. He says you're not following or considering your own inclination to speak. You just feel inclined to speak. You just want to speak. Be careful of that. Even the church fathers talk about this. Once again, in the multitude of words, sin is not lacking. But he who restrains his lips is wise. I want you to think about St. Arsenius. St. Arsenius, one time says, "What is the way that will lead to my salvation?" And it says this. He heard a voice saying, "Arsenius, flee, be silent, pray always, for these are the source of sinlessness." That he said many times, "I have regretted my words, but never have I regretted my silence." Okay? I want you to be aware if there's certain times that you need to understand that maybe I don't need to talk so much. Because in the multitude of words, sin shall not cease. If you talk too much, I read something about there's 10,000 words in a day, 10,000 words, that eventually in the 10,000 words, you're going to think about how many times you might have sinned with your words. You say, okay, well, what happens if you limit it to 2,000 words? You might have cut your sin by a fifth. You might have lowered your amount of sin and gossip and judging and critical and negativity, and learn the virtue of silence. Because when we stop talking, we also have the opportunity to engage in the most important intimacy-building skill in the world, and that's listening. How many of you are good listeners? How many of you have the skill of listening, trying to get to know someone? Jesus says in one of the most often violated commands in all of Scripture, or James, sorry, not Jesus, says, "Be quick to listen and slow to speak. Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." Be quick to listen. How many of us sometimes in our conversations, when you're talking to somebody, the person in front of you is thinking oh, I know exactly what I want to tell them. I know exactly what I want to respond to what they're saying. I have some. Just sit and listen and absorb the person in front of you. That creates intimacy when they know that you are welcomingly listening to all the words that they are trying to share. Are you a good listener? Do you give the person the impression that they're valuable in your eyes? Because that's exactly what listening does. That you could have gone through so many social interactions, talking, and you might say, "You know what, I realized I didn't even ask you how your day is going." You're like, "We spent 2 hours together, and you weren't aware that you didn't ask how my day was going?" So then think, what did you do for 2 hours? I just spoke. I thought about myself. I'm absorbed with myself and my own issues and my negativity and my this and my that. Asking questions, being open-minded with understanding, not interrupting, seeking suggestions, are all ways of communicating to the other person that they matter. What you have to say matters. These are things that if we had more listeners out there, more people that were just saying, "Let me hear what's going on in your life." They say, a lot of therapists, people will come back from therapy and they're like, "The therapist didn't say anything." And I'm like, they're not supposed to in the beginning. They're supposed to sit, they ask you a question, and they listen. They want to see, and they're reading you. They're reading your faces, and they're reading your emotions. They're reading your tone. They're listening to your stories and how you perceive things. Listen, because that therapist is trying to say, "I can grasp so much from you when I listen." And so the person is waiting for the other person to talk. They're saying, no, they value you. Let them listen. Next thing. Sobriety checkpoint. Okay? Proverbs 15:30. "A cheerful look brings joy to the heart. Smiles and joy are contagious and foster relational health." I want you to think, are you the type of person that is a smiler? Recent studies have found that the contagion of joy is so powerful that when we see even a picture of someone smiling, we tend to smile back. How many of you saw this picture and you gave a cute little smile at the picture? At the TV. You smiled at the TV. Because you can't look at this beautiful face without smiling. Some of you are not smilers. And some of you don't realize that you're not smilers. And sometimes you could interact with a person and they don't they think they're having fun. They think that we're connecting, but imagine you spend all day with me and my face to you is like this. You're like, does he like me? Does he hate me? Like, what's his deal? Why does he do that? There are some people, it doesn't cost you anything to smile. It doesn't cost you anything to smile. That when you smile, even the size of your smile shows how inviting. I tell this to young ladies when young ladies are trying to either give a signal that they're interested or they're not interested. When somebody they're showing, like a guy is showing the girl that he's interested, if you're not interested, the size of your smile matters. Like just a graceful smile versus this means I'm inviting you into my life, okay? Big smile means come in. Graceful smile means nice to meet you today, have a good day, okay? Graceful smile. Not a jerk, we're not rude people. Graceful smile. Think about this. Think about this concept of smiling. I read something that said smiling and laughter produce relief from stress by releasing pain-killing, euphoria-producing endorphins, enkephalins, dopamine, noradrenaline, and adrenaline. Imagine that a smile affects you physiologically. Physically, your body becomes healthy through a smile. Hold on. What's wrong? I'm smiling at you. We had a cute bishop. Came a month ago. Sitting with the youth. He's telling stories, and he's very sweet and loving, and everyone in the room is looking at him like this. And I realized, he's an elder man. He's a bishop. He's sharing. He's a missionary. The normal, healthy response is somebody's coming here to speak to me and share something that is different. He lives in the middle of Africa. A room full of people are not smiling. And I realized, what is wrong? He doesn't have to be funny. He's a nice man coming and he's sharing. And his voice was very gentle and loving and kind. And everybody is like this. And I stopped. I said, what's wrong with you people? When you sit in front of a person who's giving you his time and he's speaking, you smile. You look like you, even if you don't care about what he's saying. Smile. Manners, polite. Smile. I know you're like, Abuna, Paul just gave a sermon about smiling. Yeah, because you can understand. They used to say when they would interact with a Christian in the early church, they would come back joyful and they say, oh, did you meet a Christian today? Imagine that somebody's mood would tell whether they encountered a Christian or not. They would say, wow, something is different about you. You must have encountered a Christian. And here we all are. Something's not right about us. That's relational intelligence. It's not all up here. It's the Spirit of God that is alive in you. The Spirit of God, His fruit is joy. Okay? It's bringing comfort to the people that are around you. It's giving, not just taking. How many of you, in your interactions with others, are looking and expecting from your friends or the people around you, maybe they're just not light. They're not lighthearted. Like an interaction with them is heavy. Sometimes I want to say, look, I had a long day too. I need you to be light a little bit today. Can you just lighten it up a little bit? Can you just be playful a little bit? We're all carrying a lot. Everybody is carrying right? Can I get an amen? Everybody's carrying a lot of stuff. Sometimes, lighten it up a little bit. Even with your spouse, be playful. Bring back playfulness in your relationships. Not everything is business. Be playful. Smile. Interact with joy. The other thing to notice is to people who are condescending, looking down on others. They come off as condescending when they speak. that I'm in a position of authority. Some people are professional debaters, right? They were on the debate team in high school, and they never graduated, and they're forever on the debate team. Today, you're like, oh, it's a really pretty day outside. You know, it's kind of windy. Okay. You're like, it's really great that the church, has a fast during the season. No, because do you know what the early church said? Like, yeah, yes, like, just take it easy. Like, everything is a debate, and it's very, very, very draining. Are you a professional debater? That my kids are professional. If I say left, and they want to go left, they'll go right. Yesterday, one of my kids has a permit, so he's driving. We're driving down the street, okay? As he's changing lanes, I said, okay, speed up so you can change lanes. So he's kind of going slow and speed up. Okay, he's learning. We're teaching him. Then we're making a right turn at a red light. It's a red light, right turn. What do? You yield for the people that are making a left turn here. I say, okay, slow down. And he steps on the gas as they're coming. I'm like, what are you doing? I told you before, speed up. I tell you now to slow down. Like, anything I say, you do the opposite of. Sometimes there are people like that. There are people that will say the exact opposite of anything you say. If we're having a conversation and we spend, an hour together, and nothing I said you agree with, you're that type of person. We said 10 stories, 10 subjects, 10 statements. Everything you had an opinion about. You know everything. You know everything about everything. Like that person, have some social intelligence. You disagree, but you already kind of disagreed 3 times. On the 4th one, just agree, just to agree. Irmili haga, just throw me something. Throw me a bone. Make me feel like maybe you value something that I say. Nobody likes a know-it-all. Nobody likes a know-it-all. Be careful. The person that is constantly disagreeing and debating, believe it or not, the other person that is receiving the debate, most of the times is leaving your conversations emotionally bruised. They feel bruised inside. You don't think that there's anything good that I have to say. I'm hurt that there's no value in me. I must be either the worst person in the world because we spoke for an hour and you didn't agree with anything of things that I'm a dentist, you're an accountant. What do you know about dentistry? Why are you disagreeing with what I see in the office as a dentist? Like, you don't know, but you know. Like, everybody in the room is like, yeah, you see, were you there? Do you know? Were you there when this happened? No. Then why do you have an opinion about everything? Be careful of that. Because what you're doing to the others, you're emotionally bruising them. They feel unvalued. They feel like there is nothing that they can say that is right. That's very, 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 sometimes, and this is why somebody would say, okay, I'm not going to hang out with them. People are hungry for joy bringers. I read a statistic, it says we are about 30 times more likely to laugh when we are with other people than when we are alone. Research indicates that people in good spirits may laugh 100 to 400 times a day. Do a quick review of your day. It's almost noon. How many times have you laughed? Okay, you were in liturgy. Hopefully you guys weren't laughing at liturgy. And you're not laughing like at my sermon. Okay, how many times have you laughed today? You say, okay, I'm not a light person. Be socially aware of that. You see, a lot of people, they want relationships that are low maintenance. Right? Say, I want to do my backyard, but how can I do it where it's the least required maintenance? Right? You do all cement or all concrete, so I don't have to mow any lawns, I don't have to pick up leaves. I just want least amount of maintenance. There's no relationship that has no maintenance. We have to keep up our relationships. We have to keep stirring them and building them and reconnecting and doing all these things because you're talking about a human spirit. 2 relationships are working with each other. We need to constantly be working on that. Then there is this concept of the emotional economy. Emotional economy is the sum total of exchanges of feeling among us. Once again, the sum total or the total exchanges of feeling among us. Every single interaction we have with another person involves not simply exchanging information or performing tasks, but also influencing each other's moods and attitudes. I want you to ask yourself this question. Am I contributing positively to our emotional economy? Meaning, we have an economy of interactions, of exchanging feelings. What did you contribute today in your emotional economy with your friends? Did you drain someone? Did you uplift someone? Did you encourage? Did you inspire? Because everybody in their interactions with you is saying, what is your contribution to society? What is your contribution to our emotional economy? Did you make me feel a little bit uplifted, or did you drain? Be careful of this concept of the emotional economy. There was a study. 3 volunteers sat silently in a circle for 2 minutes. And at the end of that time, the most emotionally expressive person transmitted his or her mood to the other 2 without saying a word. So I want you to imagine 3 people sitting in a room for 2 minutes, sitting with each other. Everybody either has a blank face or some expression, some mood is being expressed. The person that is expressing a mood affected the other 2 in 2 minutes. That everybody came out with that mood. If you were a downer, everybody came out down. If you were full of energy, everybody else came out full of energy. Are you contributing positively to our emotional economy? What are some dominant moods in our emotional economy? Fear, joy, anger. These are dominant moods, whether you like them or not. They will take over the economy of emotions. Complaining, hope, discouragement, compassion. If you want to contribute to somebody's emotional economy where they leave you, some interaction with you feeling some type of feeling, you need to ask, how did you dominate your contribution to that emotional economy? What did you add value to this gathering together? Every time 2 people make contact, they come away feeling either better and more energized or worse and more depleted. I want to ask you a question. People around you, you can read their faces. Do they feel depleted by you or uplifted? Do they feel like their heads are down, they're kind of down, they drive off, they feel worse about themselves, they feel worse about their situations, they feel worse about life, or they're buzzing off, blasting music, they're excited because they interacted with you with some type of energy. This is the way of a Christian. You are either filling others or you are depleting others. And filling isn't just telling jokes. Like, okay, we all laughed for an hour because somebody told jokes. And some people have that. That's nice. But filling is also when the Spirit of God is within you, they're filling you with substance. They're adding value and wisdom and perspective to the world and to your life and to your friendships and to your character. They're building you. And so you come out saying, wow, I'm a much better person by interacting with this person. Some people are totally blind to these signs. When there is a road closure. Actually, no, before we get to that. Emotional economy. No offense, anybody here? When you interact with a dog, okay, you feed the dog, you play with the dog is questioning, are you God, right? Because you are serving me and doing all these lovely things. When you interact with a cat and you feed them and you do whatever, what is the cat thinking? I am God. Okay, look at this face right here, okay? Which one are you? I'd rather be the dog, okay? I know there's a lot of cat lovers in here. Be aware. Okay, road closed. This sign of road being closed. Parents, when you talk to your kids, we all struggle with this. You need to get in that last word because they have to know, otherwise they're going to die if they don't hear your 2 cents. Okay? And the face is just shut down. You see a dad at Little League with his kid. They're walking from the game to the parking lot, and the kid's face is just like down. okay? Sometimes we play, our kids play in leagues, and you can see there's a kid, every time he shoots, he looks back at his mom or his dad, and he does like this. Make or miss. And so sometimes people are also communicating that the road is closed. I don't want to talk about that. Look at this verse in the book of Revelation. This is Jesus himself, God himself. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him and he with me. Even Jesus understands road closures. Jesus says, I'm going to knock. I'm going to knock. I'm not going to force my way in. I need you to be ready to welcome me in. Jesus can easily say, I command that this door is open, and like, yes, master, okay? But he says, I'm going to stand and give you something called social freedom. I'm going to talk about this very sensitive topic. If a few of us are a group of friends, let's say we're a group of 4, and 2 of the 4 just want to spend some time alone. The other 2 are like, how come they didn't invite us? Can we have the social freedom to hang out with whoever we want to hang out with? We're a group of, sometimes, at church, we have a group of 30, right, in our youth groups. You have 30, 40 kids that go to a college campus or whatever. You're like, okay, do I have to hang out? Do all 4 of us have to hang out all the time? Or can 2 of us, or even 3 of us get together without the 4th? What do you guys think? Can 3 people get together without the 4th? You're like, why are they not inviting me? The 3 of us like baseball. You're not into baseball, so we're going to go talk about baseball. That's okay. Give people social freedom. Give people the freedom to choose. It doesn't mean I don't like you because 2 of us decided we were going to go out to dinner today without the other 2. Is that okay? Or do we feel automatically insecure that, why are they not inviting me this time? Some people, we're a big community. We're a big community. We can't always go out in groups of 20. We can't. We can't always go out. You need a table for 40, please? They have to shut down the restaurant to kick everybody out so that you can come with your... 3 people want to go hang out. Is that okay or is it not okay? Your own emotional health is determining how you're feeling in that situation. Can you navigate and regulate your own emotions and say, it's okay? It doesn't mean that I'm unloved that 3 people went to go do this activity. Do you give people social freedom? Give people time. Give people space. Don't beg anyone to stay. Let them roam. What's meant for you will always be yours. Okay? So relationships thrive on respect and freedom. Do you give people freedom to interact how they want to interact? Hey, I don't like Chinese food. I'm not going out. That's okay. I'm not going to go to Chinese. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, fine, because, Bunapol doesn't want, none of us, guys, go to Chinese, have fun, we'll meet up after, we'll hang out later. I don't want to eat Chinese food. Everybody has freedom. Give people freedom. Are you controlling? Are you controlling on how people need to behave and how they need to interact and how we should socialize? Be careful of that need to feel like that FOMO, I need to be part of everything. Then there's the shoulder work. Do you read people's shoulders? When somebody goes like this, what does that mean? You say, when you ask somebody, are you sure? And they say, yeah, I'm sure. Are they sure? I'm sure. Read. You say, okay, I get that you're a little bit nervous about this decision. We can revisit, even though they said they were sure. Hey, do you really want to make this investment? Yeah, I'm sure. Are you sure you want to do that? I'm reading something else. You don't have to do it. Give people space to come back because people are communicating things by their body language. Some people are saying, just inspire me. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. Every human being you know is making a request of their friends, though it usually goes unspoken. Question. In marriages, we have something called spoken expectations and unspoken expectations. Right? Sometimes we have unspoken expectations, meaning, of course, when we both walk into the restaurant, that you're going to open, the wife is thinking, of course you're going to open the door for me as I go in. Well, some cultures are different. Maybe it doesn't work in your culture. So if I really want you to open the door for me, I say, honey, when we go to restaurants, can you open the door for me? You might think that that's obvious, but not everybody thinks the same way. Think about your spoken expectations and your unspoken expectations. How many people are not meeting your expectations because you never spoke them out loud? People can't read everything, and so there's some things that you need to talk about in your expectations. Once again, let's go back to what people are expecting as they're interacting with you. Motivate me. Call out the best in me. Believe in me. Encourage me when I'm tempted to quit. Speak truth to me and remind me of my deepest values. Think about some of the things. Jesus, like we said, when he's standing at the door, he does not force his way in. You have to also communicate, please, I need encouragement today. I need to be uplifted today. I'm tired these days. Okay? What are some of the things that people are communicating through their interactions with you? A loss of morale. They're down every time they hang out. The presence of unresolved conflict. We have drama, and we never dealt with it. And because we never dealt with it, like I'm kind of just like whatever with you. Some people are saying we have unresolved conflict. So I'm not going to be normal until we talk about this and fix it. We need to address some of these deep things. How many of you guys have unresolved conflict and you've just been going and ignoring some type of pain inside of you and you're not communicating otherwise? The misuse of humor. Sometimes people have the misuse of humor. They're over joking too much. End here. But I want you to have the mind of Christ. The mind of Christ is to be able to sense others. Come and give yourself to others and to be able to communicate love and compassion and encouragement. That is the mind of Christ, to be able to discern what the other needs in front of me. So if you feel like you're struggling in relationships, I want you to kind of process some of these things and figure out why some of my friendships aren't going so well. Look at yourself first. Yeah, they're mean. They're insensitive. They're cliquey. Chances are maybe you're not being invited to the clique because you're coming off in a certain way. There's that aspect as well, that sometimes we need to hear and work in ourselves. And glory be to God forever. Amen. Let's stand up and pray.